We live in a world that's, well, pretty obsessed with safety, right? But what if I told you that in psychoanalysis, the whole point might not be to make us feel safe at all? What if it's about something completely different?
So this is the big question that psychoanalyst Tiffany Ann Houck is really digging into. She's looking at our world, with all its instability, and sees this natural urge to just retreat into safety. But here's the kicker. She argues that real, deep, psychological change, that doesn't happen when we're comfortable. It happens when we confront the very things that make us feel profoundly unsafe.
And according to Houck, this problem actually starts right inside the psychoanalytic community. There are these huge debates going on about what even counts as analytic work. And when you bring up messy, real-world stuff, race, class, gender, it often gets shut down as being too political. But she thinks political is just code for too unsafe for us to deal with here. So what you get is this silent rule, this mandate for safety at all costs. Houck has a great name for it, the psychoanalytic superego. It's like this invisible force that polices what you can and can't talk about. And yeah, on the surface, it's all about keeping things safe. But when you look closer, it makes you ask a much, much bigger question. Yeah, exactly. Whose safety are we actually protecting here? Is it really about the patient? Or, and this is the really challenging part, is it a defense? Is it protecting the analyst, protecting the dominant culture from uncomfortable truths? The paper basically says this obsession with safety is a paradox. It actually stops the real work from happening. Okay, so this whole drive for safety, it's wrapped up in this idea of the perfect analyst, right? The analyst as this neutral, anonymous, blank slate. But Houck is saying, hold on a second, was that ever really the case? Was that even the point in the first place? And this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the modern ideal of the analyst who says nothing, reveals nothing. And on the other side, you've got Carl Jung himself. I mean, he was seeing patients in his home. His family was around. His personal spiritual art was on the walls. This wasn't some slip-up. It suggests that from the very beginning, the analyst's real human self was part of the whole process. So, if safety isn't the goal, what is? Well, Houck's answer is pretty profound. She says the real power of psychoanalysis isn't about building walls to keep us safe. It's about giving us the tools to walk through the unsafe places and come out the other side changed. And the psychoanalyst Ann Ulanov just puts this so beautifully. She talks about how the real work isn't about pretending our darkness, what the Jungians call the shadow, doesn't exist. No, the work is to actually consciously go into it. It sounds terrifying, but Ulanov sees it as this essential passage, almost like a secret door. She literally calls it a hinge door. The idea is that when you confront your own capacity for what we might call evil, it swings open this door to understanding collective pain, collective suffering. It's the thing that breaks down the wall between me and them and forges a real connection with the so-called other. Okay, so this whole journey through the unsafe, it all leads to this incredible reframing of a word we throw around all the time, usually not in a good way.
Yeah, the word is unhinged. Normally when we say that, we mean someone's had a total breakdown, right? It's a bad thing. But Houck is asking us to flip that completely. What if being unhinged isn't a bug but a feature? What if it's a necessary process, a dis-ease, as in a lack of ease, with a world that's already broken? It's an active coming apart from a system that needed to be taken apart.
And if you look at this through a Jungian lens, it makes perfect sense. This coming undone is exactly what happens when our ego, our small, conscious sense of who we are, gets a visit from the self, which is, the whole picture. The ego's world gets shattered, but that's not the end. That shattering is what creates the space for something much bigger and more whole to grow. So in this view, you actually need to be destabilized to grow. Now, I know this can all sound a bit abstract. So to make it super concrete, the paper uses a modern example that is, it's pretty surprising, but it works perfectly. Let's talk about Barbie. Stereotypical Barbie. At the beginning of the movie, her world is perfectly balanced, perfectly hinged. Then, the cracks start to show. Suddenly, she's thinking about death. Her waffles are burnt. She finds cellulite on her leg. Her whole perfect reality is starting to wobble. And that wobble, that imbalance, is what pushes her out of her safe little world and into the real world. And that place is not safe at all. For the first time, she experiences the male gaze not as something flattering, but as something threatening. She even says she feels an impending sense of violence. It's a total shock to her system. And then, when she gets back home, it's even worse. Her world has been turned upside down by patriarchy. And that's it. The disruption is just too much. She can't keep it together anymore. She just collapses face down on the floor in this total depression. She is, for all intents and purposes, completely unhinged.
But this is the whole point. It's only from that place, from being totally unhinged and depressed, that she can finally see the truth. She sees her world for what it is, and she sees herself as just an idea. The breakdown had to happen for the breakthrough to be possible. It's that crisis that gives her the clarity to make a real choice, to become human, with all the pain, messiness, and death that comes with it.
Which brings us back to where we started, with this really provocative question from Houck's paper. So what happens when we stop trying so hard to stay balanced? What if real progress, for ourselves, and maybe for the world, isn't about desperately holding on to the hinges of safety, but about finding the courage to become unhinged?